let me talk about the history a little bit, and that would lead into it. So this type of work originated in the 50s and 60s, primarily in Europe and the United States. And it went gangbusters during the 50s and 60s. And then with the war on drugs in the early 70s with Nixon in the States, then it was shut down. In the early 2000s, a renaissance of this research came back, and hospitals and research facilities began to look into it. And today there are probably dozens of clinical trials that support this and hundreds upon hundreds of research papers. Especially after about 2015, it became popularized and clinics began to open up. And these clinics opened up especially in Canada, because Canada is a leader in this. Canada has a program called the Special Access Program through the federal government that if you apply properly, you can get access to psilocybin, MDMA, which are not legally prescribable right now, and use them in your clinical trials or in your clinical protocol for treatment. Especially in Alberta, though, what's interesting is Alberta is the first Canadian province to regulate psychedelic-assisted therapy and ketamine-assisted therapy. And it regulates it through, and this is why it's so safe and good in Canada, and especially in Alberta, through the College of Physicians and Surgeons. So it's medicalized so that the setting is highly safe and the protocols are research-based. And so that's where it's come in the last, say, 75 years. And that's where we're at today. What is psychedelic-assisted therapy? I think that's what you asked me, right? So psychedelic-assisted therapy, the better way, you didn't say this necessarily, but I did. Psychedelic-assisted therapy should be called psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, right? Same with ketamine, right? And so ketamine is legal in North America to be prescribed, but the special piece with ketamine is ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. So finally, after 100 years at least, psychology and psychiatry have a real-time medicine available that's not traditional pharmacology, taking pills with side effects. It's psychedelic medicines that is essentially what they do is it's combined with psychotherapy, and psychotherapy has never had this before. So that you have this power of these medicines that diminish resistance, loosen the ego's need for control, right? Allow the unconscious to open up, those parts of oneself that one keeps hidden, and these parts of oneself begin to be offered into the space of one's internal world, which then can be brought to therapy and shared. And then together in therapy, we work on these memories, fears, thoughts, feelings. It's still therapy with working on feelings, thoughts, memories, fears, but it's now therapy with this big opening up. This physiologically, the brain begins to fire dramatically and rewire, and that enhances the opening up so that the psychology can be, I mean, the technical term is when psychology becomes like a psychoplastogen, so like plasticine. So with these medicines, one can mold it and shape it. And so that's essentially psychedelic-assisted therapy.